Welcome to the 10th Republican Congressional District. On January 8, 2024, Kristina Karamo, chairman of the Michigan Republican Party, spoke at the Faith Baptist Church. Kristina came to tell us the current status of the party and to answer any questions we might have. We recorded the event so that those not able to attend could see.
Without further ado, it's already 7, so I want to introduce to you guys your chair of the official Michigan GOP.
Thank you, Braden, Melissa, Dan, Lori, Michelle, just tons of people who all help. I hope I don't leave anybody off, who helped organize and coordinate this meeting. Thank you so much. I also want to thank our chairs who are here. We have our District 10 chairs, Barb Zinner and Cliff Ross. Thank you so much for coming out. Thank you so much, Barb and Cliff, for coming. Also, thank you, Macomb County Chair Mark Ford, for coming. Thank you so much. Also, here on County Chair, Larry LeBrant. I hope I didn't mispronounce Larry. Thank you so much for coming. There you are. And then also State Representative Neil Frisky. Thank you so much for coming. So thank you all for coming. So I really appreciate you all attending this meeting. And what I can say through all of the hoopla lines is, number one, of course, I'm still the chair of the Michigan Republican Party. And the silver lining in all of this is I probably should have done something like this a lot sooner. Because one of the things I've learned is how fast lies and false information can spread and the damage that they can really cause. You know, I always make this joke, not always, I started recently pointing out, now I see why the Bible says liars will be thrown in the lake of fire. Because when we tell lies, it causes such destruction. Because when people make false accusations, then they spread it to this person, then it spreads to this person, it spreads to this person, and they cause chaos and confusion. And the thing about it is, we're gonna disagree, and that's okay. But what I realized since I became elected as chair is that just this coordinated effort to constantly sow discord to the point it's disrupting our party. And so I will say the silver lining in all of this is I think I should have done this a lot sooner. That way people could have asked questions and we can proceed, because the 2024 election is critical. There is so much on the line. Our kids' futures are on the line. And I always think back into the wide open southern border, and that's what I think about all the time. Because we have military-aged men crossing our border. And so that is terrifying. Because when you have thousands of military-aged men crossing the border, that means these people have very bad intentions. So that's what terrifies me. So yes, I'm still your chair. The individual who's my co-chair, I guess they obviously now trying to act as chair, so I will take that as the resignation, and we will proceed forward with the business of the Michigan Republican Party. So I'll be very brief in my remarks because I want to devote most of this time to questions. I want to devote most of the time to all your questions and hear what people have to say. As you know, it is done in an orderly manner just so we can get to as many questions as humanly possible. It doesn't turn into a debate and a back and forth, because I know lots of people have questions. As Braden mentioned, one of the big things that get asked about, which I'm just going to address up front, one is the financial situation of the party. A lot of people are very concerned because they're here, there's a bunch of debt going on, what's happening, how we're going to win elections, and we have all this debt. Let me clarify. The $600,000 in debt we did inherit from the former administration. And just some backstory, back in 2022, December, actually this is my third cycle on state committee, just my first time as chair. So this is my third time being on state committee. Back in December of 2022, we were told that the party was debt-free. Then as it got closer to time for election for chair, we started hearing rumblings that the party was in debt. And then when I took over as chair, I found out there's $440,000 unpaid on the line of credit and $180,000 of credit card debt. And the former administration claimed that there was the email list. As you guys know, fundraising is one of my most important responsibilities. And the MailChimp login to have access to the party email list was not given to me. I was not allowed to have the party email list. I was told that it was in a trust, and the attorney for the trust sent me a list of names and physical addresses and told me, we wish you well. Refused to turn over the information to contact donors. So that put us in a very bad situation. I can go through all the layers of sabotage, refusing to turn over party assets, and the list goes on. So how we arrived to this point here, which a legal action that deals with the debt, is that we asked Comerica Bank to provide us with the original line of credit documents. Because if we're being told that we have to pay off this line of credit, I want to see the original documents. I want to see the transaction history. That all seemed very reasonable to ask. And a lot of the necessary information Comerica did not provide to us. So then comes October, we get the original line of credit documents. We find out that the former MyGov headquarters is collateral for the loan. And when I look at the 2024 cycle, how would you rather me spend the donations? Would you rather me spend money paying off Ron Weiser's debt or put it towards elections? And that's what I believe is the right thing to do, is to put it towards elections. And the reality is, for a quarter of the price, we were told, now some people say, oh, well, the MyGov building, they only leased it for $1 a month. That's not what I was told. I don't know what other people were told, but in that meeting, I was told it would cost us about $12,000 a month to use the building. And in my mind, that sounded outrageous. So that's when we went and secured an office building downtown Lansing for a quarter of the price. So, I have to be fiscally responsible. I'm not married to nostalgia and saying, wow, that's been our headquarters forever, we need to keep it. Not if it's too expensive. And so when we found out that the building was collateral, that created another quagmire, and you got multiple entities making multiple claims. So in the legal action we filed pertaining to the building, it's not us suing anybody for money. We just are asking a judge for a declaratory judgment to let us know who owns what and who owes what. Because you have multiple entities making different claims. And we can't make decisions without the guidance of a judge and be considered to have done something illegal. So before we get into a situation where it's like, you've done this illegal and then all this more accusation and drama, we just rather go up front to a judge and say, settle it. Let us know what we own. Let us know what assets belong to us, that way we can make a decision moving forward. And it's really that simple. But now it's turned into this big hoopla. So, that's one of the things kind of the controversy that I want to address up front. I did want to, before we get to questions, Braden did plugs for the two main focuses of how we're going to win in 2024. So I'm sure many of the other accusations and controversies will come up during the Q&A period. But I did want to address our strategy for winning in 2024. And it relies on these two things here: the Good Neighbor program and our election security operations. We are a grassroots party. I was elected to be a grassroots chair, and that's what I'm doing. And the reality is, our power is in our people. Because with the Democrats, well, really, they're Marxists. They're something else, right? But with these people controlling media, entertainment, and education, they have a massive influence on the public. They just do. They massively influence the public. Why is it that every election cycle, Democrats have some entertainer dancing on stage with whoever their nominee for president is? They do that for a reason, because they use the culture to influence the elections. So we will never, even if we raise dollar for dollar what they raise, we will never out-commercial them. We will never out-flyer them. But what we have is our people. But we have to be organized in a very tactical manner. And we have a lot of brand new precinct delegates. So if I may ask, how many people are a precinct delegate for the first time? So look at the room. We have tons of brand new precinct delegates who've never been involved, and many people don't know where to begin. And we believe that what we can do is show people how to engage in your government. Because many people who are recruited to be precinct delegates are simply told, guess what? You just show up twice a year to vote and that's it. That's false. You are to be your community's political representative. You are a representative. You are supposed to represent your community's interests politically. That's what a precinct delegate is supposed to do. And so our goal is to show precinct delegates how to engage your government, and also people who aren't delegates can still participate in the Good Neighbor program. We want you to know how to engage your elected officials, how to gather information you need, how to conduct yourself at public meetings. All of these things are going to help you know how to engage your community and then bring your neighbors along. And one of the perfect examples of this philosophy, now, of course, in the Green Township situation, the Michigan Republican Party was not involved. Yes, we did publicly support them and promote and encourage people to attend their events and rallies, but I don't want to give anybody any illusion that we were involved in organizing it, because we weren't. However, the philosophy that we're using within the Good Neighbor program was exactly how they were successful in Green Township. What happened is, we all know regarding the CCP battery factory, the community got together, they organized, they knocked doors, they told their neighbors. When their neighbors found out what was going on, they were up in arms. They showed up to public meetings, respectfully had their voices heard, and after respectfully having their voices heard, sharing with their community what occurred, they were able to collect the necessary signatures and recall the entire board. It didn't take $1 million. It took strong team building in your community. Because most people have no idea what's happening. They think watching the 11 o'clock news means they're informed. We know how that's not true. And many people, more people want to be politically involved. But they don't know where to begin. They don't know what to ask. The Good Neighbor program provides those tools. Additionally, one of the things we're trying to help establish more is community. We don't have community anymore. I mean, how many times are we told not to discuss religion and politics with people? But those are the two issues that matter the most. No issues matter more than religion and politics. So we need to be able to have those conversations with our neighbors. And when we're able to have those conversations with our neighbors, we're actually in a better situation. Because now we can solve problems. We have to learn how to work with our neighbors again. So I was in Dexter, Michigan at a parade, and I share this story frequently. And I was talking to this woman. I was campaigning for Secretary of State, and she was a Democrat. And this woman, we had a conversation. Now we agreed on the issue of the problem of political corruption. We heavily disagreed on the issue of abortion, and we just kind of agreed that we don't agree on that issue. But what we did agree on is that most people don't feel represented. They don't. Most people don't feel represented. So the Good Neighbor program is a solution. Now, how this will help us, because better political representation manifests in two forms. It's electing good candidates, and it's also us knowing how to engage our government. So also the beauty of the Good Neighbor program is you have candidates. Let's say you live in one community, you live in a particular area, right? You only live at one house at a time, at least most people. But you have an entire district to campaign. You don't know everybody. But if there's established neighborhood teams within your district, now you can go talk to those team leads and the people who are Republican precinct delegates, who are established and active and know the community. Now you can go talk to them and you can effectively campaign. Again, look at the Green Township model. This model works. Talking to people is powerful. Two things came to why I thought about this program and decided to develop it. And what's really cool about the Good Neighbor program is that it's our own closed system. No big tech censorship, no intrusion. It is our own closed, personal Michigan Republican Party platform. Nobody controls the platform but us. And what helped me come with this idea are two reasons. When I ran for Secretary of State, so a typical Secretary of State's race is about, it's a little under $1 million. The Democrats put up $10 million to help Jocelyn Benson win. That's how invested they were in protecting that seat. Now, as you guys know, I've chaired the Michigan Republican Party. I always have to preface my comments with this. Officers are not allowed per our bylaws to endorse in the primaries. But I will say this. Look how they're trying to throw President Trump off the ballot. And guess who's been sticking their finger in that mess to try to dictate which candidates are on the ballot? Secretary of State. So those races were critical. Those races were critical. And the reason why I'm mentioning that is because when I ran for Secretary of State, there were so many commercials ran against me to destroy my character, what we call raping your reputation. Just to ruin your reputation, just to violate it in such a way that people hated you. It was kind of funny. I would talk to people who would be campaigning for us, and they would encounter certain Democrats, and if they just saw my name on a T-shirt, they would just have conniption fits, like Trump derangement syndrome. And so they invested so heavily in trying to convince the general public that I was evil, that I was terrible, that I was a monster, that you need to hate me. But I was out campaigning, talking to somebody, and they're like, wow, you're nothing like the commercials. Yeah. And that showed me the importance of person-to-person interaction. This is what happens when we start talking to people. Because the caricature that has been made of us Republicans as to how many of us are afraid to openly say, I am a Republican. Many Republicans are scared to say that because there's been an effective demonization scheme against us to the point that we have been made pariahs in our own community. I can tell you so many stories. Another one. This was about 2017-ish. Yeah, about 2017, 2018. So there was a drag queen story hour going on in Huntington Woods, and I spoke up, and it was an intense environment. So it was like 3 of us in a room of about 200 people who spoke against the drag queen story hour. And the other people there, they weren't just there and supporting the drag queen story hour. They were there screaming and yelling, waving signs. There are men who are about 6'5" in heels and dresses. It's an intimidating environment. So as I'm leaving out, this guy approaches me and said, thank you. Thank you so much for speaking up. He's like, I have 2 neighbors on each side of me who both support this, and I can't say anything, otherwise I'm going to be kind of excluded from our neighborhood. So this is why we have the Good Neighbor program. We got to break down these barriers if we as Republicans are going to be successful. My last example isn't just build a community and talk about political issues. And when we were campaigning for Secretary of State, I was in Flint, and I was speaking with this woman, and she was sharing with me that she felt that some of the dollars were misappropriated that came in for the Flint water crisis. And she said, she was telling me that there was somebody working in the mayor's office and they were sharing this information. And I asked her, I said, do you know what a FOIA request is? And she told me no. She's like, I don't know what that is. And in that moment, I realized that most people know to be upset, but they don't know what to do about it. And so the Good Neighbor program is a great tool to not just build community, but it also shows people how to engage their elected officials and how to affect political change. And so this is going to be great. And also this will help us with calls to actions. So please, I know everyone got one, please sign up with the Good Neighbor. I'm going to actually be a little bit like a salesperson towards the end and ask everybody to take out their card and sign up, because here's one of the things too to keep in mind. And I know Representative Frisk can attest to this, because you know him being a legislator, is that the Democrats oftentimes would drop legislation at the last minute. They would drop legislation just like that. And then suddenly we got to get an email out to everybody and hopefully mobilize as many people as possible. With the Good Neighbor program, we have a cost-effective system that we can instantly text everybody in the program with calls to action. So if we find out, 10 o'clock at night on Tuesday, there's going to be a 1 o'clock vote for something crazy in Lansing, we can blast out a message to all the delegates saying, guess what, this vote is going on, or this hearing is happening, please get here if you can. Now we have a quick reaction force. That was one of the things we severely lacked last year, was an effective quick reaction force system. So then, again, the Democrats would do something crazy, and because the former administration wouldn't hand over the email list, we were very limited with the amount of Republicans we could communicate with. So I send out an email, then I got to send an email out to the county and district chairs and say, hey everybody, tell people to go over here, and hope that they've seen that email. Now, with the Good Neighbor program, we have a cost-effective system to go and send those calls to action and mobilize like never before. I will lay my sword on this, that this program is going to be what really saves us in the 24 cycle. And as Brandon talked about our election security operations, there's no way for us to be successful if we don't have secure elections. And again, us securing our elections requires all of us to be involved. Our election system has been intentionally overly complicated, so we don't know how to engage in our election system. And this way, we can actually engage. We have these 18 points that Braden pointed out, and if we all volunteer and get involved, because one of the beauties is that the Good Neighbor program and our election security operations, those work in tandem. And that way we can have an all one-stop login for activists to log in to get all the information that they need. So I want to say hello to Tim Vetter. Can you raise your hand, Tim, from Check My Vote? So Tim Vetter from Check My Vote, we partnered with to help in the QVF cleanup. So we actually have real tactical solutions that are already implemented. It's just we need more people involved because our programs won't work if we only have 500, 600 people active. Imagine if we had 4,000 or 5,000. We would make a difference, a massive difference. So those are the things that I did want to talk about in my opening comments, but I really, like I said, I want to spend most of the time on the Q&A because I want to hear what matters to you. But those are the things I'm focused on, and my belief is through the Good Neighbor program, that's how we will be able to raise more money. Because unfortunately, well before I became chair, a lot of people have taken pride in not giving money to the Republican Party. It's almost like a point of pride. I would never give money to those people, but yet these people vote Republican. So we really have to change the reputation of the Republican Party and show that we're actually elected constitutionalists. We actually have real solutions to win elections, and that way people will get involved and invest in our system. So now I guess I will take questions, and we'll just go from there.
All right. Is this working? Anyone hear you? Bad. Can you hear me now? How's that? There we go. Okay. All right, so thank you for your remarks, Chair Karamo. I'm going to stand back here so I can stay next to that speaker. Here's the first question. Several of the MIGOP co-chairs... Okay, so several of the MIGOP co-chairs stepped down on Saturday to form a new political party. What are your thoughts on this? And do you have new chairs?
Well, you know, anyone who is no longer serving with the Michigan Republican Party, we of course as a committee will decide on their replacements. But as I mentioned, with the co-chair deciding to declare herself as acting chair, I will take that as a resignation. But again, we as a committee will discuss all of these matters and resolve them. But yes, we have decided, you know what, we're moving forward in a direction. If these individuals are trying to form a splinter group, they cannot legally operate as the Michigan Republican Party, and we will just proceed forward as the Michigan Republican Party, and they can form a splinter group.
Next question. Do you still support election integrity and still believe that the 2020 election was stolen?
You know, yes. I was there at the TCF Center for 37 hours. I watched firsthand that's how I got down this entire road. That's why the election security operations is our primary program with the Good Neighbor program. If we don't have secure elections, we don't have anything. And so in order for us to secure our elections in this time frame, we need as many people as humanly possible. So, you know, we just can't save our republic without secure elections. But it's really going to take a concerted effort from everybody within the community to get involved in essentially ensuring our vote. But it's huge, yes.
Okay, thank you. Are you in touch regularly with President Trump, and this is kind of open-ended, is he aware of what's happening now?
Well, I will say I don't, when I talk, whatever conversations I have with candidates, I keep that between the candidate and I, so I'll just answer it like that. It's just a philosophy. Whenever I talk to a candidate or have a conversation with a candidate, I just keep it as such. And since we know what happened in the 2020 election, but legally he is a candidate, so whatever conversations I have with him, I'll just keep that as such.
Okay. How can we increase participation by Michigan Republicans who should be much more active in saving their state?
That's what the Good Neighbor program is for. So the Good Neighbor program is designed to get people more active and by training people within their community on being active and how to be active in a meaningful way. So the Good Neighbor program is that solution.
This one is a question of what your percentage was when you were elected. So if you know that, and then what percentage of state committee is required for you to have a mandate?
For me to have a what?
A mandate.
I'm not sure by mandate, so it was like a 14-point margin for February, but as far as the mandate, I'm not clear on what that means. I apologize.
Okay, the next question is, will you bring to light the fact that all 110 Michigan House of Representatives seats are up for election in November of 2024? And also,
Can you say the first part again? I'm very sorry.
Okay, so why have you not brought it to the party's attention the fact that all 110 Michigan House of Rep seats are up for election in November 2024? That's the first part of the question. Would you mind speaking to that?
Well, I don't know what's meant by bringing to everybody's attention. It's already assumed that it's on the ballot. So I don't know how to answer that. As far as the strategy to win, our strategy, there's 6 particular House seats that I've identified as ones we want to target that are flippable, one in Macomb County. So those are seats that we really want to focus and make sure we have a heavy concentration of activists in those communities. But as far as informing people as to which races are up, I apologize if people don't feel they were informed. I just kind of assumed that people knew which races were on the ballot for the 24th cycle, like the House Reps, U.S. Senate, President, State School Board, Supreme Court, and the Board of Regents, Governor, and Trustees for the major universities. So those are the votes that we'll be voting on. And then of course you have your county elections, your county clerk, your county executive, and your commissioners, and any other races your county may have.
So there's somebody would like to know, at what point do you have a mandate? At what percentage of a victory? That is the question, yes? What percentage of the state committee will give you a mandate?
I mean, as far as what percentage of the state committee to give a mandate, there's nothing in our bylaws that requires a mandate. As far as what percentage of the state committee it takes to remove people, the vote is 75% vote. But as far as the mandate, nothing in our bylaws currently require a mandate of any kind.
The next question. Going forward, how do we turn around the MIGOP with all the factions and fighting that is going on?
Well, that's what I'm hoping to do with these meet and greets, so we can answer any questions, any things that maybe some false assumptions can be dealt with, and any disagreements we have can be settled. I believe that people need to be focused on why we're doing this, and I think there's something else we need to keep in perspective. We as Republicans are a little bit more prone to conflict than Democrats because we're individualists. That's why if you see there's always there's chaos in a county or chaos in a state or chaos here, because we're more prone to conflict because we're kind of like, I'm going to do it my way and I'm right, you're wrong. So that can create a lot of conflict. Now, I'm not talking about people in politics who lie and do something else or claim to be a Republican, they vote like a Democrat. That's not what I'm referring to. But my goal is to hear everybody, and people hear me. We talk about issues, we move forward and focus on what the goal is. And that's what it requires of all of us, because we're not collectivists. We won't be like Democrats. They all march to the same beat of the same drum, and you don't break ranks. We'll never be that way. So the goal is, what are we doing this for? And when we remember why we are doing this, then that is what keeps us motivated and fighting for our country and not fighting each other. I also think what will help us is one of the things I want to show is us treating each other with respect, not be quick to jump to conclusions, hear each other out, and try to make sure that what we're doing is based on true information. So those are some of the things that I would like to just display myself, but also just as a party, we really have to focus on the mission and not focus on why this person made me mad or why I don't like so-and-so. We really have to move off of those things and just really be focused on why we're here to save the country.
Got to change the mic because you're running out of battery. No? All right.
Okay, thanks.
All right, next question. I missed half of this last one. So all 13 Michigan U.S. State House of Representative seats are open in November. Why are you not finding us candidates?
Why am I not what?
Finding us candidates.
Well, what I will say is that, we do have some Republican incumbents in some of those seats. You want the goal is to work with the district parties, especially where there are vacancies. As far as my activities is finding candidates and recruiting candidates, that's just something I typically don't publicly disclose. We just go out and try to find people and work with maybe the district chairs or county chairs to help identify. So we are involved in trying to find candidates and making sure we have quality candidates. It's just not something that I necessarily publicly discuss.
Okay, thank you. Next question. What is your plan on moving forward with or without Melinda Domingo?
So again, I consider her as resigning since she's going off and claiming she's the chair and she's doing all sorts of odd things. That is on her. I'm gonna pray for her. I don't hate her. I just pray for her as Christ commanded me to. We just kind of move on. Our plan is just to function as a party and just work with people who are focused on the business of the Michigan Republican Party. I am not interested in fighting and arguing, going to and fro with people. The people who want to do the work will work. The people who want to fight and argue, I do want to hear legitimate complaints. But other than that, we just move forward. We just move forward.
Okay, next question. I'm a former state committee member. I'm a former state committee member, but not a current member. Can I attend Saturday's meeting on the 13th?
Yeah, so the way our meetings are typically, we have it to where you have to be a Republican precinct delegate to be a guest. We do want to open it up because the venue we have does have the capacity for 600 people. So we are assessing right now how we can open it up to invite more people because we do want more delegates to come. It's just that some venues we have, for example, at our venue in Clare, it's packed to capacity when we were there, or when we were at the church in Grand Rapids. It's packed to capacity. So we have to make sure that we have enough space for our members and we have about 200 members, actually 203 members roughly, including all our ex officios. So we always want to make sure we have enough space for our members, and we do allow guests. So we can connect with Lori, we can discuss about our guest policy, but we do allow guests.
Okay, next question. Who is your biggest problem in your organization and why?
I would say that.
Good luck with that one.
I don't want to get in. There's two sides to this, right? The part of me that we want to go look, I'll give you the skinny on some of these people, but then on the other hand, I do want to be in the spirit of unity. I do want to move forward. It's obviously the individual who ran with me as co-chair. A lot of the conniving and the backstabbing and it's kind of setting these events up and spreading lies about me and then chairing an illegitimate meeting and then running around and claiming that she's chair and trying to tell people I'm no longer chair and sending cease and desist orders and all this stuff. That's not fair to us Republicans, but once again, we'll deal with the matter as our bylaws allow and just move on.
Okay, next question. Why is everybody complaining there is no budget, a recent budget available? Will you please, what can you share tonight about the budget to put this to rest?
So we have a budget committee. At our state committee meetings, we do share a treasurer's report. And we did, unfortunately, at the December 2nd meeting, had a detailed report. So some of the challenge, I will admit, sometimes people will say, well, you're not showing us the information. I'm like, what information do you want? So we have always at our meetings had a treasurer's report, but at our December 2nd meeting, we had planned a very, very detailed report, to share with the committee. If people aren't aware of what occurred, there was a group claiming that there was going to be a pro-Palestinian protest. Then virtual meeting. Some people chose not to attend, which is their right, but we did present a very detailed financial picture of the Michigan Republican Party and where we stand financially. As far as what is our budget, that isn't something that I typically present in a public setting as far as everything that we have. What I can say is that most of these details are all public information. And so we do, as a committee, we're working to make sure that the committee knows more information. That's why we have this detailed financial report, which we will present at the January 13th meeting. So we will have a very detailed budget presentation for the committee that has been prepared by the treasurer and members of the budget committee. And just so you guys know, we do have 2 accountants on our budget committee. So we have some very experienced individuals involved in helping to manage the department's finances. So yeah, but beyond that, a lot of our all of our financial information is actually public record. One of the things that sometimes people get upset if they don't know a lot about how we're allocating certain funds in advance, but there is a political strategy, because if you dictate every little thing you do publicly, then the other side knows how you're going to spend. But we've been working to find some common ground to make sure that the general public doesn't see everything we do, but the committee does have sufficient information. As far as the budget committee, they're allowed to see whatever they want, but they just have to ask. What I do want to address is we have had members of the budget committee go out and make claims that are false, because the majority of the committee doesn't feel like they're being kept out of things or things are being concealed from them. One of the challenges we have had are leaks. So, sometimes there's contracts that we have that if those are disclosed publicly, that opens the party up to a lawsuit. So there's a lot more when you're running a large organization that you have to be mindful of.
Okay, I grabbed one of these questions to piggyback on what you were saying earlier about the threats of violence. So can you explain if there were threats of violence at that meeting in December? I can't find the question right now, but I'll find it later.
Well,
and were they credible? And if so, why?
Well, the pastor, I would say they were credible. I can't imagine the pastor lying to us. We found out later from the pastor that there were threats to his family if he didn't cancel the meeting. So this is according to the pastor. Now, have we launched a police investigation to it? No, we have not. So I can't say, but I would believe the pastor. I don't think he would lie about something like that. So I would say they are credible.
Okay. One thing I'd like to mention about the treasurer is that she's a 16-year veteran of financial stuff, and she is an official whistleblower against financial fraud in the past. So you guys are in good hands with her if she's up in Traverse City. So anyway, so the next question: can you allude to what swift action that will? Can you allude to what the swift action that will be? Can you allude to what the swift action is that you mentioned in your email?
Yeah, so,
and can you describe the email for the people who don't know here?
So let me say this, regarding the meeting on Saturday, here's the reality. We made it clear, myself, our policy committee chair, and our general counsel made it clear that any business conducted on Saturday beforehand was not legally binding business, was not official Michigan Republican Party business. As individuals have every right to gather, but they can't conduct official party business. We made this very clear. And I do also want to make clear, we're not looking to single out and penalize committee members who showed up. Again, people have a right to gather and organize how they see fit. But individuals misappropriating the Michigan Republican Party, acting as though they're officiating an officer's duty of conducting party business, that's something that our policy committee is reviewing. There are compliance violations, but again, that's for the policy committee to deal with, and it's in that process.
Explain the lawsuit, the Seymour lawsuit, I assume, as to why you're suing Comerica, and why have you included the state committee members without their approval?
So the state committee members are not the plaintiffs, it's the committee as an organization. So we are a political party, so it's not that the members are the plaintiffs, it is the committee itself. The Michigan Republican Party, which is a legally mandated committee, is the plaintiff. So as we kind of mentioned earlier, what's going on is, I kind of referenced the backstory, but at the heart of it, there's a dispute regarding who owns what and who owes what. That's the simplest way to explain it. So we're not suing for any punitive damages. We're not seeking any money from anyone. We need a judge to clarify the different conflicting information before us. Because when you have multiple entities who are dealing with financial or building or legal related matters, those aren't appropriate for these individuals just to try to solve on their own. So the best course of action is to ask the judge to help us sort through this murky water. That's all. We're not looking for any money from anybody. So that's just really, that's it to the Comerica lawsuit.
Okay, great. As a county youth chair and someone that is passionate about being on fire for our Lord Jesus Christ, what can me and my fellow youth do to help KK and MIGOP against the establishment?
Well, I would say the one thing is to organize your neighbors to be politically active and to be involved in the party. That's what I keep going back to activism, because we get from people like, how can we help, how can we help? And the best thing you do is plug into the Good Neighbor program, plug in with your county party to promote our initiatives. Because the Good Neighbor program and our election security operations are our most important initiatives that we have. So if you have a young person who wants to recruit their friends to help us in our election security operation, I mean, there's one thing we're going to be doing, which we did during the Secretary of State's race. According to Michigan law, the clerk is supposed to make public how many absentee votes they got before 8 a.m. on election day, and how many votes they got by 9 p.m. on election day. So they're supposed to post that information. One of the ways to help fight against fraud is for us to get the absentee vote count. Remember in Detroit when all those ballots showed up in the middle of the night? So one of the ways to combat that type of fraud is by us having that information. But that requires people. Our investment is in our people. So if you can recruit those people to help in those programs, that is the best thing that people can do, and get involved in the party, and then be social media warriors for our causes and help spread information. The information war is huge.
Next question. How can my delegate vote be nullified by a handful of a faction? If there is or was a problem with MIGOP, why wasn't I notified? I'm not exactly sure what this is referring to.
So I would probably say, I would probably speak to whoever your state committee representative is. That's what I recommend. So whoever represents you on state committee, I would talk to that person. But as we mentioned, and frankly, as we mentioned, there's a meeting on Saturday. All those matters will be settled on Saturday, and we will just proceed as a group. But that is why we believe that it should be the full committee and not 45 people, because the bylaws stipulate that, and it's only the right thing to do to make sure that the whole committee is able to be there, debate, and make sure that they represent the interests of delegates in their district.
They like that one. What is the best way to help clean the voter rolls?
So the Check My Vote program, there's actually a training and a process that they have that you walk through in canvassing your neighborhood, submitting the information back to Check My Vote, and then working with the local clerk to help clean the voter rolls. So that's one of the ways. Now, of course, there may be potentially legal action that we may need to pursue to help clean the voter rolls. But in the meantime, that's going to be helpful. And actually, any information we gather through this process will help us with any future endeavors that we have. So the best thing that you can do is, through the Check My Vote program, is to help canvass your neighborhood, identify those fraudulent registrations, connect to the local clerk, and then the local clerk can clean them off. Now, here's the million-dollar question. What happens when Jocelyn Vincent put those registrations back on the voter rolls? Because that's what she does. That's where more drastic measures will come through. But the first step, because we are functionally citizen investigators, is to first identify the crime, clean it up, develop pattern evidence, so that way we can go and pursue other matters, pursue other actions. Because that is the biggest threat to our election system, is the corrupted voter registration database. And as I mentioned, oftentimes the Secretary of State just puts them right back on. So with that information, we have a media strategy, a social media strategy that we develop to help spread the word, that way more people are aware. Because the information war is going to be critical. And getting the word out about those corrupt registrations are going to be huge. But Check My Vote is working with Check My Vote is our solution to help clean the voter rolls.
Okay, next question. What is the state party doing to support precinct delegates and giving us the tools to help educate voters?
So that's the Good Neighbor program. That's what that is all about. Inside the Good Neighbor program, we already have some content. We're going to be adding more content, so there's content already in there. So again, if you go to this form, scan the QR code, sign up for the Good Neighbor program, and that will show you how to connect, with your elected officials and the various things you need to do to be engaged within your community. And as I mentioned, we recently now have a texting system where we can immediately text everybody who's inside the system. So we really need as many delegates as possible signing up. So we can text people, calls to action, let you know, hey, this is happening in Lansing, something just occurred, alert your neighbors, or you can simply be trained. Also, we partnered with Luminar for our canvassing system, that's separate from voter roll canvassing. So there's voter roll canvassing, and then there's door knocking to get the word out, to get out to vote efforts, and let your community know about candidates. So we're utilizing the Luminar system to help in that process.
All right, next question. Can you speak about redistricting in Harrison Township? I am a precinct number 7 delegate and recently received a new voter ID card stating that I am now in precinct 4. How does that affect my role as a delegate?
That is a really good question. Was this recent, as of this year, or in the last year? Because redistricting was already done, so there shouldn't be people being assigned to do precincts. So that sounds like some fishy manipulation with your voter rolls. I would say go talk to Tim Vetter about that to first see what that is. Now, I know there was a lawsuit, and the judge had declared that several of Michigan House districts are a violation of, I think, the Voting Rights Act. So that has yet to be determined. No new maps have been drawn. So that sounds like something odd is going on in the QPF, in my opinion.
Okay, next question. There are many new precinct delegates in the audience who feel that votes were taken away from President Trump. I feel that District 10, Claire, took away my vote, too. No one asked PDs how they feel.
I would say, how do you feel is angry? That's how I feel. That's why I ran for Secretary of State, and that's why I ran for party chair. I would say the best thing to do is, regarding how you may feel, is to find the appropriate people in the party and for our leadership and work to find solutions to fix the problems. And that's why we're so, really focused on our election security operations. Because, there's just a lot of issues, but it is infuriating, and that's why we want to get active.
Next question. How do we go on the offensive against PAYGO and other disruptors?
Well, again, we'll settle all these matters at our state committee meeting, and, that's the decision. Sometimes, Chair, you wish you could just put a stroke with a pen and be like, okay, you guys go over there. But I'm big on following the bylaws. Her making these declarations, she has obviously resigned herself as co-chair. She's doing her own thing, that's her business. I wish her well, God bless. But everything else, one of the reasons why I'm coming here to talk to people, because again, there's a lot of false information and false accusations that spread, and I want to make sure that we open up those lines of communication. But I want to say this, what I want from people, instead of going on the offensive against other members, I want to encourage everybody to go on the offense against the Democrats, and then when they see members getting distracted by drama and gossip, say, listen, stop following the gossip, stop following the drama. We got 10 months to save our country. Focus on the country. That's all I want to say.
All right, I like that one too. It's being said that the Secretary of State is telling the press and media that the Michigan Republican Party is changing how we run our primaries. Is that true, and how does the Secretary of State affect our primaries?
So what's going on is one of the things that we are considering as a body, and we do want to hear people's input on. One of the things we are considering as a body is trying to close our primaries. This has been something that we as Republicans have talked about for a very long time. Also, this provides better political representation. So this morning I was on the Guy Gordon show and the whole matter came up is that one of the items of business on the agenda at the January 13th meeting will be about the issue of our primaries. Most people have never talked to their elected official. We have no communication, we have no relationship with them. But your precinct delegate, you know them. You know the precinct delegate, they are your neighbor. And you can make your voice heard to the precinct delegate. So if we have a system, now keep in mind, we already do this already with our convention, whether it's the Lieutenant Governor, Secretary of State, Attorney General, a myriad of other races, we elect the state Supreme Court. Those are all done at convention. So we are simply exploring an option, want to put it before the committee for consideration. What if we include more races? What if we include more races in that? And also that provides better political representation to members of the public. Because now it's the precinct delegate who votes in the convention, and I can go talk to them. And no more secret votes. If the party decides, again, I don't make this decision, the committee as a whole, if the committee decides that this is something we want to do, then no more secret votes. All precinct delegate votes have to be public because you are a representative and you have to be accountable to your neighbors. And now this system is so much better because now I can go to my neighbor and say, Congressman so-and-so or State Rep so-and-so, he's voting like this, I'm unhappy about it, and what's going on. And if the precinct delegate in your community isn't holding that person accountable, you vote them out.
There you go.
You vote them out.
May be closed.
So next question. There's a lot of questions in here, so if you don't remember them all, it's okay, just take the general question. So, is the meeting on the 13th canceled or not? If not, is the entire state committee invited? What will happen at the meeting? And also, if the budget is public information, why can't you just tell us how much money the party has? If it's public, where should I go to find that information?
So the meeting on the 13th is absolutely going on. Any reports that is canceled are false. Again, I am the chair of the party. No one else can cancel meetings but me. So that's number one. Number two, regarding the budget, as far as when people say the budget meeting, it's public information. The party has about $400,000. That's roughly what we have. Now, as far as beyond that, when you say a budget, that's a lot more packed into it. It's, how much is being spent on this? How much, that stuff I don't have readily available. But of course, if people come to the meeting on the 13th, some of that information gets out, so be it. When I say public information, the FEC.gov or MERS is where you can find any committee or candidates' information of how they spend or who they receive money from. So that's public information. So I think I answered all those questions, right, Brady?
You did an admirable job, yes.
So what now?
I think you got them all, yeah. Can you get Trump's legal team to provide direction on our bylaws?
I can guarantee you President Trump has so much going on with them trying to throw him off the ballot and so many other issues and then trying to throw him in jail illicitly. But again, this is a matter for the committee. There's something to decide. This is something called hiatus. We don't want the state dealing in party matters. The committee, we have a process to deal with these disputes. We will deal with these disputes. We'll take a vote. If the committee wants to take a vote to say whether or not I'm chair, so be it. They'll take a vote. I will look by those results, but we don't want sneakery and 45 people decide for the whole committee. That's not okay.
What do you think are the number 1 and 2 goals of the state Republican Party?
One is to win elections. That's number 1. And number 2, to win elections with constitutionalists. That leads to better political representation. That's it, better political representation. That's why I keep going back to the Good Neighbor program, because that's how we get involved, and we want to encourage people to vet candidates. One of the big things we want to do is make sure we're checking people out in the primaries We oftentimes wait until the last minute, we don't get involved in the primaries, but we want more people understanding how important the primaries are, so that's my answer to that.
Okay, thank you. Next question. What do you think of... Well, we are focused on all of this distraction and infighting. Who's focused on getting candidates and fundraising for the party? What is really going on?
Now, I think that's a really good question. That is why I've never done anything like this, and I think that's why a lot of misinformation has spread so much, because I try not to get involved in it. Because to that question, you're absolutely right. My job is to make sure that we have the resources and the candidates have the support that they need, and that is what I'm focused on. So that is why I've said we're going to have these meetings so people get all their questions out. We gather on Saturday, the 13th, for our state committee to conduct other business. We can take a vote, up or down, according to our bylaws, and then people can decide whether or not they want me to be chair. We can put the matter behind us, and people can stop bickering and arguing, and we just move forward and try to win elections.
The next question is actually for the District 10 chair. If the District 10 chair chooses to answer, they may. What is the point of precinct delegates if you decide to vote out a duly elected chair of the party at an illegal meeting, even though she had 57% of the delegates' votes?
There is a lot of information that only certain people have been able to find and get to know about.
Would you introduce yourself, please?
I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm so sorry. My name is Barbara Zinner. I am the 10th District Chair. Thank you. Thank you. I'm one person who likes to hear. That's great. Thank you very much. When I started hearing some, and I'll be very brief, thank you very much. When I started hearing some people speaking about situations, I really didn't understand it. I had to find out for myself, because I love my people. I love the people in the 10th. I've known a lot of them for many, many years. And I thought, well, this can't be true. I'm concerned about things. So I investigated for months and months. I listened to everyone. Because you can't figure it out from just one side. I listened to every side. I looked at everything. And then when I was chair, I was listening to other areas. Every area I could find. And I'm finding things that I never dreamt I would ever hear. So, and you've got to realize, and I said this to Kristina, and she knows, this is the woman that I hugged every time I saw her. So, in Macomb County, she is very important to us, and she still is important to us as a person. You know, Kristina. This is not, don't interrupt me, please. There's a gentleman right here that is protecting me from people interrupting. Is that right, sir? So anyway, you have to be looking for situations and information. And I found what I thought I found what I didn't want to find. So many people found things. Now, Kristina can explain things. And Mark Ford, the county chair, is very good at explaining things. And I like Kristina personally. She's gifted. But there are some things, for instance, in the Kalamazoo. What's a shame is that they have that serious problem there. However that came about, I wasn't around that. I don't know how many people even know how that started. But the chair went down to help, and somehow it ended up that there was a court situation. Do you know that she has a judgment for her by a judge? And what's a shame is that I don't know that she meant to have a problem, but there are several things that are happening over and over and over again in our state Republican Party. There are a lot of things, and I'm not going to continue with this, but that is why many people are very concerned about the leadership of our party and some of the other people that have been associated with Kristina. I don't know that it's very, very concerning. And that party, she keeps, with all due respect, she keeps saying that it's illegitimate. But there is an article, and I don't know the letter and number with it, that the other lawyers say is legitimate. So that is why it was done. And remember, at the other meeting that was called, we hadn't had any information at state committee meetings about budget for months, for several meetings. Nothing, literally zero information. So we really expected to get it there on the December 2nd meeting. We all were expecting to go there and get information. And so when it became virtual, that means that there's no talking to each other. There's no dialogue. You know what it's like when you're on your computer. Is there 100 people that can ask questions? Are there people who, when you've got 16 people on for Zooms and things that I do, it's hard to ask questions. You can't do that with 100 people. And that's why that other meeting was called. And there were questions asked, and there were statements made, and there was dialogue. Anyway, there's a lot to find out, and the newspapers have had information. That's all I can tell you. Thank you very much.
Barb.
Thank you, Kristina, for
Barb.
giving me this opportunity. Thank you. Yes?
There's a follow-up question to the question. Did you ask your delegates before you did what you did, if you care so much about them?
Thank you for asking me that question. That is an excellent question. According to the bylaws, excuse me. According to the bylaws, if there has been no notice of participation, of sending me a note that they're not coming, of any chair, then when it was deadline just before the meeting, because I thought Darlene and Sandy were coming. Someone had said they were coming, so I thought they were coming. But it ends up, the meeting was getting ready to start. They weren't there, 4 people weren't there. So, according to the bylaws, if you can find the proper people to take those, that is the problem, that is the question. But according to the bylaws,
Why are she allowed to try and nobody else?
Well, okay,
sir,
well, hold on, let me say this. Let me take this just so people can understand.
Take it away.
No, I'm
I
sorry.
don't need your direction.
Okay, let me say this.
Sir, do you see this?
Well, here's what occurred. I understand what she's saying is because the reason why there was a question directed specifically to Barb, that's why she came up and answered it. So I understand. So, next one.
Would you like a rebuttal?
Well, I would just say that with the special meeting, people were informed. There were multiple reasons that our emails to all the precinct delegates were made. The request initially invalid. They asked an initial request that the admin vice meeting, that the coalition vice chair chair the meeting, that the 8th district chair is the secretary. That is a complete violation of the bylaws. And what I think is wrong is that individuals look for loopholes to try to throw out the chair instead of doing the honorable thing and saying, we as a committee want to take it to a vote. We want to make sure it's above board. Because if I'm removed as chair legally, I will say God bless and I'm still going to fight for our country. But it's the sneakery, it's the let's find loopholes, let's find little nooks and crannies so we can justify having 45 people, 37% of the committee didn't vote. And there's so many bylaws issues and violations that occurred. But again, this will be settled with the committee.
Okay, so one of the multiple delegates are here that are Barb's delegates, and I would like one of the delegates who was replaced with a proxy against her will to have a chance to speak.
Well, the only reason why I'm saying is this young lady here, she asked me, she said she expressed that she wanted to speak, so I mean, I guess you guys are the facilitators, I just don't want anybody to feel like they're being disenfranchised or something.
Let her speak.
Okay.
No.
Okay,
So there you go.
all right, next question.
Next question. Mark Fortin should explain to us why he is against Kristina Karamo, please.
He's Brandon, he waved his hand, he doesn't want to. Yeah, he waved his hand.
Okay, fair enough. Next question. What happens to the transparency as this is one of the issues you ran on?
So here's this thing, like one of the comments that was made, and again, you know, of all due respect to Barb, she said we haven't seen any financial information. We present a treasurer's report. So at our state committee meetings, we provide a treasurer's report of what the party has financially. So we have provided that information in our meetings. The thing about it is we only meet a couple times a year. So we had a meeting in April, we had a meeting in June, we had a meeting in September where we did present a treasurer's report because we didn't have a treasurer at the time. We were bringing in a new treasurer. And then for the December 2nd meeting, we had a very, very extremely detailed financial report to provide the entire committee. So we are now, my question is when people say, well, we do want to be transparent, but my question is, what do people want to know? You know, what information particularly do people want to know more about? So as far as the committee, we want to make sure that the committee does have the necessary financial information. The budget committee members see whatever they need. One of the challenges we've had are leaks. So we'll provide financial information and it winds up in the newspapers. And I always say, you know, our party is a republic. So the success of the party is it ultimately always falls on me, but it is all of our responsibility. And when committee members are leaking financial information and giving it to the papers, that doesn't help me feel confident in sharing information with the committee. Because let's say we are having a problem. You're going to just leak it to the newspaper to try to humiliate somebody. That doesn't humiliate me, it humiliates the party for having a challenge. So that's why trust works both ways. And so that's a whole other story in itself. But when people say transparency, and I'm not deflecting the question, I think people need to define specifically what information that you want to see that you aren't seeing, instead of just saying you're not being transparent. It's like, well, what do you want?
When are the delegates voting to make up our 55 electoral votes for Michigan?
So, March 2nd. So in case people are not aware, what happened is the Democrats moved the presidential primary to February 27th. That put us in violation of RNC rules. The RNC has a particular window of time as to when they can amend convention rules. With us being in violation of the rules, that would have meant we would have only had, I think, about 12 delegate votes to the RNC convention in Milwaukee. Now, because we were able to have the deal or come up with a solution with the RNC, we now have our full 55 delegate votes at the Milwaukee Convention. So 16 at-large delegates will be awarded based on the results of the February 27th primary statewide, and then the other 39 votes will be based on the district convention March 2nd at the Huntington Place. Please remember, you're not just voting on presidential candidates. Just so you are aware that with the presidential candidates, the top vote, any candidate who gets 50% plus one gets 3 delegate votes. If nobody gets 50% plus one, the plurality winner gets 2 votes, and then the second place person gets 1 delegate vote. Thank you so much, Melissa. And then we'll also be voting on RNC committee man, RNC committee woman, there are 168 members of the RNC. So we get 3 from Michigan, your state chair and your RNC committee man and your RNC committee woman. Also, you will be electing actual delegates to go to the RNC convention. We'll have more details for you soon on how to become a delegate. Just please know it will cost to go to the RNC convention because they block us as far as like hotels and other experiences. So we will have those numbers for you as soon as we get some more information from the RNC.
Hello there. With Whitmer's new law of intimidation and someone feeling quote-unquote threatened, how is the Good Neighbor program going to work without us being arrested? So can you give a background on that new proposal and what it did, and then explain?
So, Brady, you can correct me if I'm wrong, or Phil, this is regarding the poll challenger matter. So that is separate. Okay, so our election security operations and our Good Neighbor program are 2 different things that work together. So our Good Neighbor program is about neighborhood team building and neighborhood organization and having a quick reaction force to respond to the political happenings. The election security operations is where we work to recruit people to be poll challengers and poll watchers, but the Good Neighbor program will help in the training process. You know, there's so much we can do, and I know that sounds kind of negative for me to start my statement like that, and because the Democrats are in control of all 3 branches of government, they've essentially criminalized scrutiny of our election process. So, and the media, someone said, so we will do the best that we can to prepare and train our poll challengers and poll watchers to lawfully engage. But I will say that may be a risk we just have to be willing to take. Our country is really at a breaking point, and they use fear and intimidation to prevent us from wanting to engage. But we have to be willing, you know, this will easily get taken out of context, I know it's press here, but we have to be willing that if we are lawfully engaging and asking questions, if the police harass us, or if an elected official, not elected, but an election official harasses us, we just have to work it out, but we need to still speak the truth. I'll say it like that.
All right, next question. How do we know who is in America first? I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm just trying to get. We have a lot of staff. We have a big staff here. So, how do we know who is America first, and who do we trust? Too many rhinos and uniparty members. Make a list. I don't know if I like the idea of making a list.
Yeah, I can't, as state party chair, I'm not allowed to because I have to remain neutral in the primaries. But what I will say is part of the reason why we propose a closing of the primaries is because it helps us vet candidates. You know, because when a candidate has, you know, X amount of people and they're able to just snooze and just slide flashy, you know, flyers, that's one thing. But if they got to sit with the precinct delegates and we got to ask them tough questions, that's a whole other ballgame. So, you know, that's one of those reasons for that. But also, you have to just vet these people. Look at their affiliations. Look what other offices they have. Look who, you know, whose campaigns they supported, who they worked with. And it's really going to be asking for deep questions. And one of the things that I have no idea what questions Braden have on his card. We haven't screened these. We're not picking out. If whatever people give, he's asking. But what I would never trust is a politician who comes late and leaves early. If you have a politician or a candidate who doesn't want to engage with people, who won't stand except opening the questions, never trust them. Because I've seen it even as chair. Now I can't point people out or call names or anything like that, but I can tell the difference between the sincere candidates and the posers. The sincere candidates will sit there and answer every question. The posers, they want to come in, do a couple of photos, grab the microphone, and they're out of the door. Because they don't want a gotcha moment on camera. It's just my 2 cents.
Next question. Why do we have to tell them what party we are in? Isn't it a private, personal vote? Write a bill to eliminate this invasion of our privacy.
So I'm assuming this is about the presidential primary. it's because the race is partisan, and you can't, and this is not just the presidential primary, but all primaries, since our primary ballot doesn't allow for you to vote for both parties in the primary, you have to pick a party. That's why, so that will require legislative change.
Next question is regarding Kristy Klamer. The questioner says, Kristy Klamer, who worked tirelessly with you for 2 years, and you were really close to, put together 2 meetings and invited people, including you, so that both sides could be discussed. Can you help me understand why you didn't go to those meetings, or go to her meeting on January 2nd, and will you be going to her meeting on the 10th? Can you explain who Kristy Klamer is, and if she's a chair somewhere, or and what all this is about?
From what I understand, she lives in Tennessee. Let me say this. You know, she's not a public figure. Okay, so you know the comments about the person who ran with me for co-chair, that's different. This individual is a public figure. Or Mr. Carpenter, you know, this guy is a clown, and a complete clown. Again, he throws himself on the newspapers and tries to make this guy is a complete buffoon. But Kristy Klamer is a private citizen, and I personally don't want to get into our disputes. I think it's inappropriate as to why there's a schism between us. But just remember, there's 2 sides to every story. She lives out of state, to my knowledge, and I will say this: if she was going to do this, it would have been appropriate for her to reach out to me and say, "Hey, we need to talk and let's have a one-on-one conversation like women," instead of going and doing these public displays. And I'll just leave it like that.
Okay, next question. Have you opened the Michigan GOP books? If not, why not?
I mean, the books are available to the budget committee members. That's not to say, you know, one of the things that people have been upset with, and I think it's a fair question, they said, well, you said on the campaign trail, you know, that you said every committee member should see the books. Why haven't you done that? And when I ran for office, I did not think, I will say, I never anticipated the amount of internal sabotage that I've experienced. I did not expect that. And so, you know, I had this idea that we were all Team Republican and we're all going to work together. I didn't know that people would try to use information to go make false allegations or leak it to the press. It's not even about allegations. I don't care about that so much as leaking it to the press. Because there's a lot of strategy that can be deduced from how you spend your funds. And that's not something we want the Democrats to know any sooner than they already know when campaign finance reports are published. So when people leak things to the press, that's created a situation where, for the best interest of the party, not myself, then I feel sometimes a little sheepish about sharing information beyond the budget committee, which I'm required to do.
Okay, next question. Will we be given an accounting of the financial status of the party? And has that already happened?
So as I mentioned, we have a very detailed financial report, as I mentioned, that was prepared for our December 2nd meeting, but because of all the drama around that and the threats and cancellations, and we went online, and you know, and let me say this, I am not a fan of online meetings, but what I will say is we worked very hard to ensure that platform would allow us to comply with Robert's rules so people can raise their hands in order. And we had a very detailed financial presentation for the committee, but when it was online and presenting, then other individuals we realized had jumped in and gave the link to members, people who weren't committee members, and we were being spammed. The budget chair just said, you know what, I'm going to wait until our next meeting to present this to the committee. So that will be presented January 13th. The committee will be able to see a full financial report.
Okay, the next question is a very long one, so I may break it up or read it like poetry. I don't know. Let's see. 2 State House of Representative seats have been vacated. Gretchen Whitmer has called for a special election to fill these seats. They are very important. One is in District 13 near Warren and a portion of Wayne, and 2 is in District 25 near Westland. Question: why have you not done anything to bring this special election to our attention? Why is there only one Republican running? There are numerous Democrats running. So let's start with that, and then I'll read the back side of the question.
Okay, so in District 13, actually we have been talking to people and trying to help. So in District 13, there are 3 candidates running. District 25, there's 1 candidate running. So I have been involved trying to help organize. I just haven't been necessarily as public about it, but we will be making sure that we have information to remind people to go out to vote in those special elections. But I have been involved, just not necessarily as public. The House 13 race, because there are, as a primary and there are multiple candidates, at this moment, I can't get involved yet until the Republican nominee has been declared after the January primary. Then that's when the party can get heavily involved once the primary has been determined.
Okay, thank you. Next part of that question. I am a delegate in District 13. I'm very frustrated and beyond anger about your almost invisible leadership. When are you going to focus on all of the offices throughout Michigan and their elections?
So the offices that I focus on as state chair are, of course, our state house races, U.S. Senate, congressional races, to some extent we do have district chairs, and the president election. So those are the elections I heavily focus on. So any county elections I don't involve myself in, not because I don't care, it's because of time. And we do have the county party to manage those. But, I apologize if, and that's one of the reasons why I'm having this event. That way I can be a little more public. Because, when I first got elected, if you invited me to any dinner, banquet, event, or function, I'm showing up. I'm there because I just like to connect and I feel it's a good way to answer questions. However, I took a kind of quiet period because we just had so many things to do administratively that going to a lot of events was kind of cutting into our administrative side. So I apologize for not being more present. So that's why I'm here now, but we just work to hope that the neighbor program will really be effective in us winning that House 13 and House 25 seats.
Next question. How much money does the Republican Party have? And what is being done to get more big donors or fundraise?
So what I will say, as I mentioned, we have about $400,000. What I will say is that to raise more money is relationship. What I do say, and again, it's ultimately everything, the buck boy stops for me. But when we have an organized effort to make false accusations habitually, right, leaving the party, like we had 2 officers falsely accused me of bigotry, and they ran to MLive doing this, that does not help. That does not help with the public reputation of the party. So it also takes time, being the grassroots chair, to build those relationships and help present your plan. Our Good Neighbor program is instrumental in helping our plan. Also, I've set up blue ribbon committees to help identify new donors to the party. And also, I'm going to encourage everyone in this room to donate to the party. Because this is one of the things we need to do differently as Republicans. And Democrats don't do this. There isn't this separation between activists and donors. It's all one the same. Now, I remember I kind of had a debate with somebody, and I said, why don't you give to the party? And they're like, yeah, but that's not, I'm like, yeah, why not you give? So I challenge everybody in this room to contribute to the Michigan Republican Party, because we can't say those people should give, but we shouldn't. It doesn't work that way. And also, we wanted grassroots leadership, so that means that requires all of us to give. And the way the Democrats, they don't have a separation between activists and donors like we do. It's really bizarre. It's all one and the same. The activists and donors are the same people. The question is, how much time is someone spending volunteering, and how much money are they giving? But they're all one and the same. So we really have to change our culture that everybody contributes, even if it's $10. Even if it's $10 a month, that still is very helpful.
You have publicly called those who are questioning your decisions rhinos and disruptors. I feel that is not an appropriate response. These are dedicated, constitutional Republicans who supported your election. These are people who have worked tirelessly for years by your side, and they are now divided bitterly. Just because people have concerns and legitimate questions, whether based on miscommunication or differing opinions, should not result in disparaging them from the parties they're involved in.
So, I would like to see specifically who I called that. I don't consider people who disagree with me rhinos or anything else of the sort. Rhinos mean Republican in name only. Those are individuals who are constitutional relativists. So that's a very specific group of people. I do, one of the things I will say since I became chair is I don't use much this idea of like, okay, you have the grassroots who are the good guys and the establishment are the bad guys. I think a lot differently now as chair because there are some, quote, establishment people who we may be philosophically very different because I'm a constitutionalist, I'm a populist Republican. We may differ, but I know at the end of the day, they care about the country and their heart's in the right place. We just have to find common ground. And there's some quote-unquote grassroots people I wouldn't sit in the room with, but their personalities are just so obnoxious. So it's just really about who is for the country and who is for themselves. That's what it boils down to. And then we work together where we can, we disagree when they can. So anytime I point it out, now there is some actors, not people who just disagree with, there is a very organized effort to undermine and cause chaos in our administration. It's very organized, very coordinated, and we pretty much know who are the big hands behind it. So that is the kind of stuff we're talking about, or even, I could be 20 minutes about examples of individuals I experienced. So when I reference deep state actors, that is not a broad term for people who disagree with me or who dislike me. That's specifically people who are using the administrative state to undermine the party and media, and news media. Think about it like this. You had news media, and I talked about reporting, I'm not the chair. And I said, wait a minute, have you communicated with the party? You haven't even communicated with the party to validate the information accurate, but you're reporting it on all news entities. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about when I say deep state. That's what I'm talking about when I say deep state, not a committee member who's upset.
Okay. Is it true that you are wanting to make it so you can fire anyone in the state committee without a vote?
No.
Next question.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Vice chairs are saying that you haven't involved them from the beginning. Is this true?
No, I can prove it with emails. Let me say this, I'm not going to single people out by name. One of our vice chairs, we held an event with her Dearborn, and it was a very nice event. There are vice chairs I've asked to do stuff, and they say, well, we're not involved. And I say, hey, could you do this? They don't do it. Hey, could you do this? They don't do it. Or, I'm of this philosophy, what would you like to do? You tell me what you would like to do, and we'll make sure you have the resources to support your idea. Nothing. Nothing. And I have zero patience for people like that. There's people who always got their finger out, and point and talk about somebody else, they're not doing squat themselves. And we have a couple of right here. That's exactly how they act. They will go and whine and complain and say, oh, they're being mistreated and discriminated against. But then when I say, good ideas, what would you like to pursue? What projects do you have? I want to support your projects. Nothing. Can you take a leadership role on this project? Nothing. But then want to go to the general public and make false accusations. So, there you have it.
Thank you.
So are we just gonna, it's like we already were friends and we've already started this conversation. So are we just gonna go along and pretend that everything is fine? It seems like half the party is split. How many state committee members do we have left? How does this get resolved once and for all? Do you think there will be a lawsuit and have this end up in court? That's a lot of questions.
So, again, only 45 people attended the meeting that they were clearly told multiple times by myself, general counsel, and the policy chair, was the meeting that they could not lawfully conduct Michigan Republican Party business, and 37% of the committee does not represent most of the committee. That's 37% of the committee. How the matter will be resolved, it will be resolved at our January 13th special committee meeting, where we will resolve all matters there. I said we're going to sit it down publicly, and I'll say it again, I'm going to make a nice little video. The committee can take a vote. If vote, settle the matter once and for all, and everybody just move on and focus on winning elections.
What is the state party doing? At convention, there are only a few people who have your I can't read it. At convention, there are only a few people who are your neighbor, and primary neighbors, all you, if you, campaign and signs. Your response?
So I think they're saying that in the convention, only a few people, not of their entire community. So I'm thinking that's what they're saying. I apologize if I'm misinterpreting and misunderstanding the question. But, you know, again, the way the precinct delegate system works is there's 1 to 5 precinct delegates in each voting precinct, and those are people that you are your political representatives. We just really want to strengthen that position and provide better political representation to the community, and it'll help close our primaries.
The next statement is no primaries are against the law in Michigan.
No, we're not saying no primaries. If you read Michigan law and it talks about primaries, it lays out how the primaries are to be unless there is a party convention. So again, this is something that we always are going to operate and be lawfully compliant. This is something we're bringing before to the committee, and the committee can have a conversation. If the committee says that they don't like this idea, they think it's not going to work, if whatever reasons people want, then that's what will occur. I mean, again, this isn't my decision. This is something for the committee to decide on as a collective body, and that's a conversation we'll have. So I would encourage everybody to talk to your state committee members and share your concerns, and they'll take that back to the committee.
There's no sentence here, so I have to skip this one. How do you feel about the Laura Loomer hit piece that was put out nationally about you? And did they contact you or anyone else in the party beforehand? What is the situation there?
So that's a very funny story. So I will say this. The America First community, we all travel in the same circles. We all travel in the same circles. We're all one person away from connecting. So when I first was made aware of her accusations by a national committee woman, I will say this, I am in a group chat with her and just the executive directors unauthorized, just the 3 of us. Several months ago, she made some false accusations regarding the Michigan Republican parties. The gentleman who's the executive director is unauthorized also knows her. That's why her accusations are pretty comical, because she's actually spoken to our group before, our candidate coalition. So she knows him and she knows about our candidate coalitions and our election integrity movement. We both reached out to her privately and asked her to please have me on her show. She was making false allegations. And I just thought she misunderstood and was maybe confused. I reached out to her repeatedly. Also, mutual associates, as I mentioned, within the American First community, we're all pretty much one touch away from each other. And we reached out to her through multiple sources. They tried to talk to her, some very credible people, I won't get to naming names, tried to talk to her. She just kept spewing my opponent's talking points and refused to have me on her show. So that tells you what you need to know about her.
I'll follow up with that because I contacted Laura Loomer. She never answers my text except this one time because she thought she was going to gloat. And so then when I called her and she answered, I gave her all the facts about Warren, and she had nothing to say, and she flubbed around and then said, well, I have to go to bed, it's too late, it's 11 o'clock, call me tomorrow. And I said, okay, tell me what time, let me know what time, and I'll give you all the data, we can walk through this, no big deal. Whatever, I have to go to bed. So then I called her the next day, I called her the day after that, she didn't want to hear it. She shut it all out, and I talked to some of these big names as well in the election integrity movement, way bigger than me, and they all are scratching their head and wondering what the heck is going on. So that's the response from her, is that she doesn't want the truth or data. She just took a report that was handed to her. She didn't write any of that tweet that she sent. That was straight from Warren Carpenter's bogus report. And so it's upsetting, but that's the way it is. What do you think of someone out of state influencing Michigan state elections, particularly regarding, this is regarding Christy Klamer. And I guess the meeting that we discussed earlier with co-chair Pago to try to oust you, I guess.
Yeah, again, I consider her a private citizen, and I'm not going to get here and just trash her. There's a lot of history there. But she would be, in my opinion, disingenuous with those events, because if she was genuine, she would have come to me prior to announcing and saying I want to have healing events, and she wouldn't prop up dishonest people. But, that's neither here nor there. Like I said, she lives out of state. I don't know what her motives are. I don't want to assume people's motives. I've talked to her in a while. I'll just leave like that.
Well, that question was about unauthorized, so I think you covered that. This one is about raising money. We already covered that. She wants you to look harder at Wayne 6 as the first problem for fundraising and fighting, for infighting. So she wants you to look at Wayne 6. Okay, so you don't, it's not a important statement. I think it would help precinct delegates if you could explain the structure of the party as it pertains to representation. Example, precinct delegates represent their precincts, county chairs represent who, and district chairs represent who, and MIGOP state party chairs represent who.
Well, one, we represent, that's a great point. So I almost look at it also as a sphere of operation and responsibility. So like I said, all county matters, that's the county chair's jurisdiction, and they represent the delegates within their county. The congressional district, that's their jurisdiction of focus, and they represent all the delegates in their district. And my job is to represent all the delegates statewide, and I have particular races that I focus on. The congressional district chair has particular races they focus on, and then of course the county chair has particular races that they focus on. So, sometimes to that question when people will say, there's city races happening and the state party isn't helping, it's like, well, and I don't want to seem like I'm obfuscating responsibility, but it's kind of like, well, that's none of the county party's jurisdiction because we only have so much time and resources that we can't focus on every race. That's why we have that division of labor amongst the counties, amongst the party structure.
There's controversy about you giving money or supporting Democrats through unauthorized.
Oh my God.
This is the same question again. So just saying that
No, I've never received a penny from unauthorized. I guess if 501c4, so that's not accurate.
Okay. And I think you explained its purpose. Could you let the audience know if the wins that the election integrity groups in Michigan have had against Benson and in the Michigan GOP?
Well, look, I'm just going to say Dr. Phil Howard, and then he's going to get out the door. I would say, well, there was a lawsuit where Phil was one of the plaintiffs. Brady, were you a plaintiff on that case regarding the poll challengers?
Yes, that's one of them.
Yeah, so there were multiple plaintiffs where they won against Jocelyn Benson. That was a few months ago. There is some current activity, I'll just legalize that, regarding some challenges to our election system. But please know that the election security operation team, they never sleep. There's always work happening. It's just the nature of what we're doing. We don't publicly announce it like, hey, we found fraud over here, everybody. Like, we want to go through and do what needs to be done quietly. Because if we go announce it, then here comes the Democrats pouncing on us and everything you can imagine to stop us. So,
because it pertains directly to me, I'm going to address the fact that I'm part of one of the lawsuits she's talking about. We've won twice in court now. We won at the first level, the second level, and because Benson is so unforgiving, she now wants to go to the state Supreme Court and lose again. So what happened at the appellate court, you guys will appreciate this, she's the Assistant Attorney General of the state appointed by Dana Nessel was acting as the attorney for the Secretary of State of Michigan. She gets up in front of the panel of all the appellate judges and she explains to them that if a law was made that they didn't like or they thought was too hard or cumbersome to do, they would just set it over there and ignore it. And that's the mentality of your Secretary of State, and that's why she lost unanimously in the appellate court and the court, the circuit court. So we're going to the state Supreme Court sometime in January, hopefully, and that's where we're going. So that's some news. Can you share the successes you've had over the past year, including suits over elections? So other successes then, other than that.
So one of the things we're really excited about is how we were able to make sure that the state Republicans of Michigan had all 55 delegate votes. That was huge. Otherwise, we've only had about 12 or 13 votes. The American Center for Law and Justice represented us in the case where the Democrats were trying to throw Donald Trump off the ballot. They represented us by filing an amicus brief. So that's something we also are very happy about. The Mackinac Leadership Conference, that was a success. We did make a profit. We had over 1,000 guests. And we were so happy in the fact that, we got criticized because people felt we spent a lot on speakers. But if you look at how much the last administration spent on liquor, you ask me, was this a better investment? So we still made a profit. We wanted to invest in quality speakers and have a great experience. Our election security team has been hard at work and uncovering a lot of issues. I believe our Good Neighbor program is very innovative. I want Michigan to lead the charge as far as state Republican parties. There's no other state party doing this. We're the only state party in the country doing something like this. So I'm extremely excited at what our team has accomplished. And I think that this model will be utilized across America and other state parties to make sure we win elections. So I'm very happy. And what I would say is, I know, we don't have the millions of dollars we would like. No secret there. But we have been able to get the job done with a lot less money by slashing expenses. For example, our upcoming convention that we're having March 2nd, we're going to be able to get done like 70% cheaper than it typically costs to do a convention. So it's not about how much money that you have, it's are you getting the job done. And our people have to get the job done with a lot less. That doesn't mean we don't need money. So please make sure you contribute.
Okay, the last question is... Promises made, promises kept. Every question was asked tonight. You made it all through, guys. So here we go. Last one. After going through poll challenger training and watching, I feel that it is almost useless now because you really can't do much of anything except make a note about it, and they keep processing the ballots anyway, even though they're illegal. Again, you can only chase it later. It's not really a question, it's a statement. Would you like to speak about poll challenger training and the importance of it, and then maybe other plans? And then I just have a note for everyone before we go, and you can meet Chair Karamo afterwards if you'd like and speak to her.
There are some challenges, definitely, when it comes to fighting election fraud, because they've rigged the system and criminalized asking questions. But we still have to insert ourselves and give it all we have. And that's what we're doing with our election integrity team. And our goal is to make sure that your time is useful, not being an exercise of futility, but part of the poll challenger, poll watcher training will help mitigate a lot of fraud in the sense of that would discourage people. But that is not the end of it. I was there in 2020. No matter how much we screamed and yelled, they broke the law. So we are, that's why we have 18 points of focus. So we can just try to mitigate as much fraud as humanly possible. We will not be able to stop all the fraud. There will be fraud in 2024. Our goal is just try to mitigate it as much as humanly possible.
Are we adjourned?
Okay. So before we go, I want to thank all the chairs that showed up. And I know that some people it may have been a little difficult given what happened on Saturday, and we really want to thank them, and we hope that this is unifying people. We want to thank Pastor Berlin for allowing us to use the church. And Darlene, where are you? Darlene, she was in charge of this place. Along with Melissa. And Melissa right here. So, before we go, the people that stayed till the end, how did you feel about this? Do you feel like this was useful? And just by a round of applause, do you guys think that this was good? Would you like to see more of it? All right. So, in the future, we're going to do more of these then in the future. It won't be, it's a lot of work. We're going to 13 districts, guys. So we have another 13 of these probably to go yet. But this is the first one. We want to make sure that delegates get their voices heard. and that no chair can get in their way, and that they see Karamo sees them, and they get heard and understood. And we want the same for the chairs too. Nobody's going to get blocked here. Everybody sees what's going on. So that's what this is all about. And if you have friends in other districts, please invite them to come to some of our other meetings. And Angelique would like to say one more thing.
A lady just left and she came up to me and said that this was very helpful. She was hearing a lot of rhetoric from every angle, and until she came here tonight, she saw for herself so she could decide for herself her opinions about what's going on here, and that she's compelled to help your organization and our organization from coming here tonight.
All right, guys, thank you very much. Chair Karamo will be back here on February 4th. So,